Well, call it the morning after, is the week after Nigeria wrapped up its general election. Now, the talk is mainly on the outcomes, not the shock, the upsets, and the unbelievable twist of fate, and even politics, as some got really burnt. How badly burnt is what we surely will try to taste on the show today. Though the nation still awaits a few other results, an indication that it's not touched down yet for INEC. Stove on, pot on fire, it's cooking time. Political Studio, I'm Sulaiman Aleda. Welcome. You can watch us live online on the go at tvcnews.tv/live streaming. We're live on YouTube, TVC News Nigeria Live, and youtube.com/political stew. You can also watch us live on Facebook, and remember to download the Political Stew app on Google Play Store and iOS and follow the show and news and politics. Now, we're looking at what exactly has transpired. Don't forget that Nigeria started this journey pretty early in 2018, and everyone and almost everybody kept on talking about the 2019 election, and the year came. And with a false start initially by INEC, we saw the presidential election hold on February the 23rd, with another big one for March 9. Now, the issue is that a lot of pundits actually came up with so many other, permutations, and how well did they go is what we'll be looking at on the show today, and being joined by a political analyst, Muyiwa Gbadigeshi. He joins me now. Good to see you, Muyiwa.
Thank you, Suleiman. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's great that you're here because we're trying to look at a lot of issues. By the way, we have a few other states that results have not been announced, right? About 5 of them.
Yes. We have about 5 states with inconclusive results and 1 with suspended election. That's Rivers. The others, Sokoto, Benue, Plateau, Adamawa, and Kano, of course.
Well, anyway, if you look at it, I think perhaps maybe let's start from Nigeria's southwest region, and I'll leave Lagos for now, and let's see if we can actually jump into Ogun State and see how the politics in Ogun State, because for many, they saw what happened in the camp of the APC, how that primaries saw that the governor, Ibikola Amosun, well, I think pitched tent with another political party. Yes. For some, they have that, reading that perhaps the power of incumbency, putting your weight behind another candidate in another political party, would actually see that party or that individual victorious.
Well, I think that the case of Governor Amosun is a case in point when we talk about requiring a political structure to win an election. It's difficult for you to take a new party, move your people into that new party, and win an election within a course of a few weeks, which is what he tried to do. No matter how much you think you can use the power of incumbency, you still need a structure on ground for that party. And beyond moving into a new party, he had divided the party that brought him to power in the first place. So you could see that, some of the APC members in Ogun were in APM. Some stayed behind in APC. And then there was the authentic, what you could call the official APC. So at many of those polling units on election day, you probably had 3 different polling agents, 2 for the governor and 1 for his new party. So you can imagine the level of confusion there. Beyond that, a state like Ogun State, where the electorate is sophisticated,
absolutely
requires a coalition of people, of stakeholders for you to win the governorship. Just like the neighboring state, Oyo State. Just because beyond your party, you still need to bring other people on board. And I'm not sure he was able to do that effectively. He lost some of the people who supported him in 2015, like Chief Olusegun Oshoba. He was a critical part of that victory. This time around, they were on opposite sides. Those factors affected him.
Because I think we'll come back and also talk about Chief Oshoba and look at how much of support he gave to Amosun at that point in time. And I also recall that that was almost, you know, running against the former governor as well, who wasn't actually giving him his support, talking about Benga Daniel. But this time around in 2019, it seemed as if Benga Daniel now came, you know, bringing that same support, you know, in coalition with Oshoba and some other forces to knock this out. But I'm looking at what he did, and it would seem as if it's a case of believability and trust on a platform you were running on. Don't you think that the governor didn't quite believe in the power or APM delivering the deliverables? Because if he did, one would have thought that he would have contested on that APM, because every of his associates and friends or political associates who contested on the APM all lost, but him who won because he ran on the APC.
Yes, I think you have a point there. If he truly believed in APM as a vehicle, he should have gone all in. But you must not forget the fact that he has a certain personal loyalty to the president in APC, and he didn't want to lose that. He didn't want to lose that connection to the federal, at the federal level by going to another party. Already, APC has suspended him. If he had gone to another party, maybe he would be expelled today, which means that he probably wouldn't even have a ticket. So I think, yes, he did not believe in that new party because he wanted to have it both ways. Like, he wanted to have his cake and eat it. And unfortunately for him, everyone else lost out. He still has his Senate ticket for now, because there's debate about whether the party can actually take that ticket away from him. Because until he's inaugurated, I'm not a lawyer, but I've heard lawyers discussing this.
I've also had that discussion.
Yes. So for now, he's suspended. But supposing the party decides to take away his ticket, then he's left with nothing. So he took a big risk. It's not surprising. He wears a big hat. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes now with his political career, because with just the Senate seat is
because you talked about the sophistication of Ogun politics, and I think that was one of the reasons he was victorious, because they had issues in other political parties. Almost every heavyweight in that state, they were going neck and neck against each other, and he emerged the governor. And some also were thinking that perhaps that would have, you know, given rise to a dark horse emerging as a governor, but it went the way of the APC candidate, who is now the governor-elect. Now, you mentioned the neighboring Oyo State. Did that come to you as a surprise, or did you see it coming?
I saw it coming.
Oh, you did?
I worked in the Oyo State government under Governor Ajimobi, and the Oyo State is not known for giving a second term to its governors.
But he broke the jinx.
He broke that jinx. And so he was already up against a lot, because people just want you to do your 4 years, and not just the electorate, even the civil service. Most people are not aware of this, but the civil service in most of this country prefers governors to use one term and leave, because that means a new governor comes in and it's going to take a year or two to acclimatize, during which time the civil service, yes. And most states are civil service states. So they'll work against you. And most of the civil servants probably won't vote for a governor going for second term. And Ibadan, as you know, is 52% of the electorate. The governor is a brilliant strategist, and he's a masterful politician. You know that he was in the Senate before he became governor, and it didn't come to him on a platter of gold. He worked very hard for it. When you've been in politics of Oyo State for that long, eventually you're going to acquire so many enemies that it becomes difficult to overcome them. And I think that came to play in this election. It's also a very complicated state. You have about 5 zones. You have besides Ibadan zone, you have Ibarakwa zone, you have Oyo zone, you have Oke-Ogun 1 and 2, and you have Ogumosho. And it's also one of the biggest states in terms of land mass. So it's hard for any party to dominate for too long. So
because if you go back looking at, you know, what he's done in the state, you'd say if you to assess what he's done so far, he would have had a smooth ride to victory. But again, you said something about the electorates. One wonders what goes on in the minds of the electorates. If you juxtapose that with what has happened in Abia State, a state that has, well, not done pretty well in terms of taking care of the civil service. So workers are being owed salary of over 5 months, and the incumbent won that election. And you put that side by side with a man who's done some form of infrastructural development in Oyo State, and he didn't win the Senate seat. So what truly goes in the mind of the electorate? How does this thing work?
You were talking about politics, and some people see politics as a form of entertainment. I like to see it as when you're in a position of power, like governor of a state, there's a constant struggle between style and substance. In the case of Governor Ajimobi, he truly transformed the way government works in a state like Oyo State, like you mentioned with the infrastructural work and his attempts to reform the civil service. You know, in the second term, he was able to remove ghost workers from the payroll and many other reforms that he was able to do. Those things don't necessarily endear you to the electorate, especially when you're not someone who in style is used to window dressing issues. He's a very blunt person. He says it as he sees it. And if he's been doing that for 8 years, voters can be unforgiving if they perceive that you've talked to them in a certain way or you haven't given them enough recognition. It's a conservative state. And you could say it's a state in transition from the ways of old to the new ways. So people have certain expectations of how a politician should behave. And he is coming from a corporate background. So many of the things he tried to do in the States, he met with a lot of resistance. And those things kind of snowballed into the opposition against him. And I expect that the governor-elect now, Seyi Makinde, is going to face the same type of resistance because he's going to be forced to bend over backwards to go in the opposite direction. And I can tell you that Oyo State is a difficult state because one of the reasons is that the resources are just not enough to do things in the way that the electorate would like you to do it. Giving out handouts, you know, being everywhere, being able to move, socialize. It's an expensive proposition. We need to get people back to the land to farm and to engage in other productive activities as opposed to expecting the state government to create, you know, we did create a lot of jobs, but you cannot put everybody on the state payroll because the money just is not there. And so it's going to be an uphill task to transform that.
So basically it's not about the political parties, it's about the people, how they get, let's say, burnt out politically. They get tired of, and maybe they just don't want to see your face anymore and they just need someone new.
Exactly. That's how I see it. If you've been there for 8 years, they just want, they've seen the personalities in one party and they're tired of them and they want a new set of people to come in. You can even see that in a lot of other states as well. And if you're able to bring more people into your party, you can overcome that, if you can build the party and expand it. But over 8 years, there was a level of attrition. So the APC, you know, you lost a lot of the foundation members. They went to other parties. There were issues with congresses. People were upset, and they did not come back in time to get over the opposition this time around.
You know, they go around in circles, and, you know, I don't know how this works for you all in politics. And for some, they have been so constant as the Northern Star. And we've seen a lot of people going back and forth like a yo-yo. And that's exactly what we also saw in Kwara State. But let's talk more about that. And looking at the back and forth, and, you know, for some Nigerians, they've said it's the same of the old, it's the same of the same, whether it's in name, but they all are the same because they don't have ideologies. But we've seen some politicians who are ideological till this very day, and they have stayed put in one place. Looking at Kwara politics, did you think that such movement, you know, cyclic movement we saw across political parties in the state resulted to what has happened in the state?
Yes, to an extent. But once again, if you recall the slogan for the eventual winner of that election, the slogan was Otoge, Abdurrahman Abdurazak of APC. Otoge meaning enough is enough, meaning they've had enough of the dynasty of Bukola Saraki, and before that his father, and they wanted new blood. In Oyo State, Seyi Makinde used Omi Tuntun, which is fresh water. It's like you want a new glass of water. In Kwara, the desire for change is what propelled people to move to different parties. And you'll find that now that you have a new party, many of those people might come back, because if you're on the outside, it's a struggle to survive for the 4 years before the next election. So people constantly move back and forth looking for, and that's once again because, like you mentioned, the parties are not well defined by ideology. I believe strongly that APC is moving in the right direction, because the last 4 years you've seen the introduction of social investment programs at the federal level, which are on such a scale that we haven't seen before. And perhaps this will begin to establish that you do need ideology and people-oriented programs to be able to have longevity in politics. Because if you don't do that, eventually we'll have a situation where the parties won't even matter anymore. And people will just bring cash, buy a party, and run under that party, discard it afterwards, move to another party. It will make the entire political system meaningless. So I think we do need to encourage the adoption and establishment of ideologies by political parties so that they will have meaning and people can know what they stand for.
Muyiwa, we'll come back and we'll speak it more on that, on ideologies, and also see if we can actually touch some other states, even some of those states, where some major upsets have been recorded in this last election. That'll be when we return shortly. Stay with us on Political Stew. As the home run with Muyiwa Gbadigeshi, who is a political analyst and someone who's also served in the administration of the present governor of Oyo State. Now, we're trying to look at what happened in the March 9 election, and we were actually talking about the back and forth movement. And I'm saying this, why we brought in the Kwara example, apart from the Otuga mantra or slogan that was used in that campaign for the APC candidate, we saw the cyclic movement. First, the APC chairman wasn't really happy, and he left the APC and went to the PDP. And when the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, left the APC and went to the PDP, he left the PDP and came back to the APC. So there's this back and forth. I don't want to be where you are. I don't want to stay here with you. And they did all of that in Kwara State. And now we have well, so to speak, in the state, the opposition coming in, that will be coming in by May 29. Did you, apart from the dynasty, because a lot of people use the word dynasty, did you think that the government, now we're talking about the government at the center, didn't deliberately, altruism strong and try to join forces with its governor-elect to wrestle power of Dr. Saraki?
You said the federal government. I would say that the party, the political party, and they're fully entitled to help the state chapter of that party. I don't think the federal government had anything to do with that. It was a purely party affair. In terms of, having the primaries and determining who is going to be the candidate. The party does that. The party had issues with Bukola Saraki left some of his own people in the APC Kwara. That was to cause or destabilize the party when he left to PDP. So it was a strategic move on their part. But the party at the national level did a lot to support the party in the states, which is as it should be. But I don't think it was the federal government that was involved in there. Who in the federal government? Unless you say the Minister of Information, who is from Kwara State, But once again, he's a member of the party from Kwara, so he must do whatever he can within the law to help his
do you think
candidates.
do you think that the party, if you're saying that or should you use the word the party, do you think the party got him punished for what happened at the start of this administration, when it elected its leadership at the National Assembly?
Well, he left the party on his own. He decided he was going to another party, and he even ran for president under PDP. So he wasn't forced out. I know there were attempts to convince him and the others to remain in the party, and they refused and left. So I think he was pursuing his own ambition, and he had all the freedom to do that.
Now, I'd like to bring this, which I also discussed over the weekend with a few others on television, and it has to do with what I've come to call the Buhari effect. Looking at what happened in February 23rd, and because especially up there in some parts of northern Nigeria, we saw some candidates who were not members of the APC putting President Muhammad Buhari, who is a member of the APC, on their posters to campaign and say, well, even though I'm a member of ABZ party, I want you to also vote for this man. But when they went into the election March 9, we saw truly that the Buhari effect didn't quite help a lot of other people. So how do you explain it? Now he wasn't on the ballot for March 9. Some of the candidates, even candidates of the APC, some of them struggled to victory.
Yes, and when you talk about the Buhari effect, you're talking about the fact that a majority of people view him as having a high level of personal integrity. He has that brand, that personal brand, where people look at him and they believe that he is not going to lie to them. He doesn't steal, and he speaks his mind as he sees it. So if you have a candidate who isn't viewed in that same manner, it will be difficult for that candidate to run on the coattails, unless it's the same election. Maybe if it's on the same day, because APC has this slogan, APC SAC. That means APC top to bottom. So if you're running for Senate, you may benefit from riding on the coattails of Buhari. But if your election is a governorship election, which is 2 weeks later, you're on your own. And that's what we saw playing out, where people were not able to ride that coattail if they had deviated significantly from that, the personal integrity. People don't see them as that.
I want to really close on this, yes, on a high, because this is Lagos, that's where I stay.
Yes.
No. Let's quickly talk about Lagos State quickly. The results of that election, the outcome of that election, the campaign leading up to that election. For a minute, did you think that the PDP were making an incursion, a good incursion into the political annals of Lagos?
I don't think so. Looking at their campaign, I believe that they had a bad strategy. Their strategy was entirely designed to divide along ethnic lines, and it failed. Secondly, they didn't run a very aggressive campaign. You saw the campaign of the governor-elect, Jide Sanwo-Olu. It was one of probably the best-run campaigns in recent memory. From being relatively unknown, there's hardly anybody in Lagos who doesn't know the name Sanwo-Olu now. So APC ran a much better campaign. I don't even recall PDP doing any serious rallies or house-to-house campaign. And they struggled in that regard. The party is also internally divided, as you're aware. The immediate past chairman is now in APC. So they had a lot of internal issues. So I didn't expect them to make a big incursion, and that was borne out in the results, where they struggled to get 20% of the vote.
I think it's a fine place for Mr. Semer. Thanks for being such a nice company on the show this evening. Where you are. Well, that's a wrap on Political Stew. Well, next week we'll be talking about some of those who are really aggrieved, and how well they will try as much as possible, to seek redress in the law courts. Well, that'll be next week.